Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Family Show. This is the show where families are inspired. This is the show where families are equipped. And this is the show where families are eventually transformed. The Family Show has been running for a while now. This is the 7th episode of the Family Show. We started off by looking at bouncing back from financial strain. It is not in doubt that families have faced challenges in the recent past. It is not in doubt that families have faced a lot of ups and downs with regard to finances. And it was apparent that we had to kick off the show with looking at how to bounce back from financial strain. Then we moved on the second week of the family show, and we looked at handling money in the family. Different families handle money differently, right? And we looked at how different families handle the family economy, right? Then the third episode, we looked at effective communication in the family. We then progressed and looked at how to build resilience in our children. And we agreed that resilience is needed for our children to be ready to handle the future, to be ready to handle the world that you and I described as unpredictable, the world that will be unforgiving, the world that will be crazy in every other way. The fifth episode, we looked at how to do role modeling in parenting, right? And we agreed that the roles of a parent go beyond provision, go beyond just being able to provide food for your people. And then parenting itself is a process, and it's a process of preparing someone that you will hand over to the future world. And we say that that future world will only be handled properly by those who will have been prepared adequately and those that will have been strengthened for that world. And then last week, we had our 6th episode. And in that 6th episode, we looked at the essence of the family. Is the family that important? Is the family the real deal, or is it overrated? Right? And we agreed that the family is a big thing. And we looked at what the family does. And I shared with us 3 key things that the family will be doing. And that was the family serving as the first school that everyone will encounter. And we shared a lot about how the family is the first school and the things that the family will be teaching us. And we looked at how the family is a provider of security, and we looked at different aspects of security. And then we looked at how the family becomes a provider of emotional needs. And we say that people in a family setting have a lot of emotional needs, and these needs need to be provided at the family level, because if they aren't, then people will be fighting to look for provision of these emotional needs elsewhere. And sometimes this elsewhere can be dangerous. Now tonight, we have our 7th episode, and we are coming back to reflect on the journey of parenting. Many times we look at parenting from a child's perspective, and many times we forget about the parent. Tonight I have a guest. We are privileged to have a friend, someone who is very passionate about conversations of parenting. One of the most passionate people that I've met in the world of parenting. We've worked together on various projects before, and I'm sure that this is going to be a powerful night. This is part 1 of the conversation, the parent in the parenting journey. So we are going to have a part 2 in the days to come. My guest tonight is Faith Kabiru. Faith, if you can hear me, take it away.
Thank you so much, Roy. It is always a great honor to be able to share a platform with you, because I know that you're very passionate about the family institution.
Please unmute.
Can you hear me now? Roy, can you hear me? Roy, can you hear me? Roy? Roy, I can hear your background. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Proceed.
Thank you so much, Roy. Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me, Roy. And I was saying earlier that it is always a great privilege to be able to share a platform with you, because I know that you're very, very passionate about the ministry to the family. And it's a great honor this evening to be able to have this conversation with your audience on the parent in the parenting journey. And as we begin, I want to share with you a reflection that I had about 2 weeks ago. A reflection about this man that was walking by a water body. And when they got to the water body, they realized that there were people that were drowning. And so this person marshaled up a rescue team so that he could be able to rescue those that were drowning. And then after he marshaled up a rescue team, they started getting people out of the river. But one of the people that had joined the rescue team asked, or rather made an observation. I'm very excited that we are able to rescue people downstream. But I'm just wondering, what is happening upstream? That we have people that are falling into the water body. And that is how they were able to go upstream and do construction, so that then as much as they were rescuing people from, as much as they were rescuing people downstream, that they would be able to bring in measures to ensure that people do not fall into the river upstream. Now, Roy, I know that you have been in the corporate world, and I am a trainer, I'm a corporate trainer, and I've had an opportunity to work with various organizations, just helping them develop strategic plans and helping them build the capacity to implement the strategic plan. But Roy, I can tell you this for free, that we have a lot of people with very, very good papers, but their life skills are quite challenging. And one may ask a question that exactly how comes this person has all these very beautiful papers, but when it comes to implementing the strategic plan or carrying out their role within the organization, it becomes a big challenge for them. Emotional intelligence, social intelligence is a big challenge. And probably, Roy, you may want to ask, who is responsible? Who is responsible in raising an emotionally stable child? Who is responsible in raising a socially stable child? And so that is part of what really makes me very, very passionate about upstream, where the parent is. What is a parent doing in ensuring that the people they deliver in various spheres of influence, they have what it takes to be able to execute their agenda? And this evening, we are looking at the parent in the parenting journey. And I want you to think about parenting from when the Lord blesses you with a child, biologically, foster care, adoption, or whichever way that you get a child. And then after you have been able to get a child, then the child comes into your life, and then you are expected to be a steward and nurture them to become all God intended them to be. And so the person that is entrusted with this child is a parent, and they begin a journey. And so if then the journey is parenting, you agree with me that grammar tells us that parenting is a doing word. So who is the doer? And the doer is actually the parent. That's why this evening, Roy, I'm very excited that we are looking at the doer of the parenting, that we are looking at who is this that has been given the responsibility to rear children. And when you look at the root word of parent, it was very, very energizing to see that actually parenting is bringing forth, it is producing, it is rearing. And so, and I loved the word bringing forth. So what is this that we are bringing forth in this parenting journey? And as I was thinking about the parent in the parenting journey, one of the major roles that I want to discuss today is the role of the parent as a molder. The role of a parent as a molder. Now, if you have visited where they make concrete blocks or where they make the carafats, if you have visited those places, you will actually realize that there's a model where they put concrete. And if you put concrete in that model, automatically the shape that you will get of that block will be the shape of the model where you put the concrete. And so the parent as a molder, that in this parenting journey, I dare say, Roy, that children are going to take the shape that the parents allowed. And probably someone is wondering, what about the other agents of socialization? And as I was reflecting on this, I asked myself, who allowed the other agents of socialization? When those agents of socialization came into the life of your child, what did you do about those agents of socialization? And so again, the buck stops on me as a parent, where we are saying, I am responsible for the shape that my child is going to take. And therefore, I have to be a very, very intentional parent on how my model look like. I must be very, very deliberate in making sure that I constantly refine my model. And probably this evening, we can ask, how does a parent look like? What is the real shape of a parent? If you want to know the real shape of a parent, Roy, then I have actually highlighted only 3 areas, and I know that there are many more that we can bring in, but this evening I want to look at 3 areas that determine the shape of a parent. And the first one is the belief system of a parent. And Roy, the reason why I am here, it is because there was a parent behind me. And that parent, I took the shape of the model they presented to me. And so I'm coming in as a parent, as a package. And it's my responsibility to ask myself, am I the right model? And if I allow myself to be the same model that is going to inform the shape of my child, will I be excited when I see the end result? And so what are my belief systems? And belief systems, I like looking at it as the conventional table. A conventional table has 4 legs, so to say. It has 4 legs, and belief systems are like the 4 legs of a table. Anytime you challenge a belief system and you do not correct and relearn a belief system, then what happens is that the table collapses. And so as I engage in this parenting journey, I don't know where you are at the parenting journey. Probably you are at conception, probably you are expectant, or probably you are actually raising a second generation, your grandchildren. So regardless of where you are in the parenting journey, my question is, how have the belief system come about in your life? What informed your belief system? And some of them, Roy, are very, very messy belief systems. Belief systems that were communicated to us, we never tested them. We took them as gospel truth, and they have formed who we are. For example, Roy, you agree with me that we are having a very big challenge in the family, where we are asking, are we empowering the girl at the expense of the boy so that the boy becomes so helpless that in the marriage institution, the boy has no choice but probably take the last step, which is murder? Or probably you may ask yourself, how have we concentrated our energy so much on the girl child and forgotten the boy? So that then the boy is not taking the responsibility within a family setting. And this boy then is going to become a father. And so what belief system, as probably I was growing up, what are some of the truths about religion? What truths about religion were actually communicated to me? Was there a place for religion? Because religion is a moral custodian. Was there a belief system that was instilled in me on the issue of religion? We could be speaking to people that are Christians, others are actually Muslims, or whichever religion you subscribe to. What is a belief system? Probably, depending with the probably the community that formed you. What did they tell you about the place of the woman? What did they tell you about the place of a man? Have you asked yourself questions relating to that? For example, in many communities, nurturing was left to the mothers, and which is exciting. But we also know that the children that become great leaders in this nation are the children that sat on the laps of their fathers. Now, Roy, if a child is going to sit on the lap of the father, that's not a 20-year-old. That is a child who is between 0 and 7. That's a child that sits at the lap of the father, meaning that the leadership principles are instilled in the child between 0 and 7 years. And so, what did your community tell you? At what point as a father did your community tell you you should take up your child? Do you take them during the rite of passage? Is that when they become your child? Or are you involved in the life of that child all the way from conception? What did the community tell you? What are the belief systems that were brought forth by your community, probably by your peers? What did they tell you a macho man looks like? How did they describe a macho man? Now, have you taken time as a man or even as a woman? How does femininity look like? What did my peers tell me about femininity? Now, have I taken time as a parent to interrogate those belief systems and ask myself, is what religion taught me right? Is what my parents taught me right? Is that what is what my community taught me right? Is what my peers taught me right on the issues of femininity, on the role of a mother? Or probably, do I need to go through another unlearning process where I unlearn those retrogressive, for lack of a better word, those retrogressive belief systems, those belief systems that are pulling me back? Is it time to unlearn and begin relearning new belief systems? And so if you want to know the shape of a parent, interrogate their belief system. And it is okay to constantly interrogate the belief system. Roy, it's okay to keep on interrogating them. And when you realize that that belief system does not hold water, come on, just unlearn it and begin learning the right belief system. The next thing that I want to bring to your attention, Roy, that informs the shape of a parent. Remember, I'm still discussing on the role of the parent as a molder. And I gave the example of the concrete model, where we are using the model to mold a concrete block. And so the parent is a molder. The second thing that informs the shape of the parent is actually the attitude of the parent. And because I am a parent, I want to call it my attitude as a parent. And you see, attitudes are just external manifestation of things that are actually in my mind. Roy, if I look at you badly, it has nothing to do with my eyes. It has everything to do with my mind and with my heart. And so, how does my attitude look like? And I want to bring you up to speed that my attitudes are informed by my 5 senses. When we were growing up, we were asked, or rather, probably as you're growing up, someone told you, use your common sense. And probably you thought they were abusing you. But really, they are saying, are you engaging your 5 senses? The 5 senses are very important because they inform the shape that I take. What do I allow myself to see? And when I see, how do I interpret? Because you see, the organ that sees, the organ that actually gets to see is the eye. But the truth is that the mind then interprets what I see. That is why, Roy, you will see people going shopping. And when they go shopping, someone is going to say, I love the dress. Another one is going to say, I don't like it. So it is my perception. And so what is my perception? What I saw, how did my mind interpret what I saw? And so what do I allow my eyes to see? And because Swahili, if you're Kenyan or if you understand the Swahili language, in Kenya, in our Swahili language, we say macho hayana pazia. Loosely translated, the eyes have no curtains. And so if really that is what we are saying, then I am asking myself, when I see, how do I interpret? If macho hayana pazia or eyes have no curtain, when I see, how do I interpret that? Am I in charge of my organ called eye? Do I determine what my eye see? Do I determine what I interpret from what my eye see? Roy, you probably have heard this story of 2 Americans that were sent by their rich father to India, and were told, go for a vacation in India. So someone is asking, why India? The father thought it was a new experience, it was a good experience. And the 2 boys went to India. And as they were walking in New Delhi, they realized that people in India were walking without shoes. And yet, because of the sacred state of the cow, the streets did not look very clean to their standards. And one boy got worried and asked, how can people in India walk without shoes. He went back to America and mobilized resources from international donor agencies to come and intervene in terms of the hygiene of the streets, and also making sure that at least they have some open shoes. The brother went back and said, great opportunity. If I'm able to get the right shoe for Indians, I have big booming business there. And so, Roy, they saw the same thing. That is the truth. Both of them saw a man in his kanzu walking barefooted. But what did they interpret? And so, as a parent, when I see, how do I interpret? Because then it informs my attitude. For example, if I'm constantly seeing my daughter or my son, you know, being such a risk taker until, you know, I am high on adrenaline 24/7. How do I interpret that? What do I see? How does it inform my attitude? And again, what do I hear? Because, Roy, it is also important for us to know that we have another organ among the 5 senses, which is the ear. What do I hear? Again, when I hear, because it's just sound, how is it interpreted in my brain? How have I tuned my brain to actually interpret? Now, if you listened to one of the prayer breakfasts that were done by the gentleman from the UK called Lord Jonathan, I think so. If you listened, he gave a very interesting story. And the story he gave was about a Maasai in New York City. And when he was walking, he kept on saying, I can hear crickets. But the American friend was not hearing the sound of the cricket. This was becoming interesting. And then from there, the Maasai, and the Maasai is actually a Cushiite community in Kenya, he decided to test the hearing ability of this American. And he dropped coins and asked, did you hear the sound of the coins? And the American said, yes, I heard that. And he said, it is not about the sound out there. It is what you have tuned your ears to hear. I live in the wild, and in the wild, I hear crickets. When I hear a cricket, I know that is a cricket. And so, Roy, my question this evening, what am I allowing my eyes to see? What am I allowing my ears to hear? So that then my shape is a correct shape. My attitude is right. Now you may ask yourself, what about the other senses? Very, very important. But interesting enough, the other senses are actually enabled by these two. What I see and I want to touch. What I see and I want to smell. What I see and I want to taste. And so very, very key organs. What I see and what I hear. Roy, are you there? Roy, can you hear me? Roy, can you hear me? I want to smell.
Yes, carry on. We are getting you
right,
very well.
Thank you. And so just bringing it up to speed up there, the molder, what informs my shape, what informs the real shape of you as a parent, of me as a parent, my belief system, my attitudes. The that one that informs the shape of a parent. And Roy, this is big time. This is big time. I dare call it a game changer. It is the capacity of the parent. I gave a very interesting example in one of my forums. I ran a show called the Jewels Program, and I gave a very interesting example. And I was asking, if you have a water bottle, all right, like this, I don't know whether you can see this, like this. This bottle is 500 ml. Now, the only liquid it can contain is 500 ml, nothing more. Now, what if I came with a 20 liter can and decided to empty the 20 liters in this bottle that is actually a 500 ml, what would happen? It will still contain the 500 ml. Everything else, even if I had it, is going to become a waste. And so, Roy, I have to know that when I begin my parenting journey, it is an expansion journey. I must constantly audit my capacity. And as I audit my capacity, I have to ask myself, as I audit this capacity, what are some of the areas that, whether I like it or not, I need to grow my capacity? Because if you're raising a 0 year, I love parenting because we have 0 year. I know the people in math are coming for my neck, but we have a 0 year. It is amazing that we have 0 year. If I'm raising a child who is 0 year, what is my capacity? Now, as that child grows, I need to grow my capacity, Roy. Because the truth is that I cannot continue handling that child who is 0 years, the same way when they get to 1, the same way when they get to 18 years, the same way when they are married. I must grow my capacities. And when I talk about capacity, a very interesting analogy is coming to my mind because I'm coming from the Christian religion. And it is a story of Hannah, who every year, as she went to visit her son Samuel, and you will get that story in the Bible. If you're not Christian, it's a story. It might be interesting for you to read. But as Hannah went to see the son, she constantly increased the length of the tunic because she knew that the child is growing. And I dare ask, as a parent, are you increasing your capacity to be able to handle your child? Because their length, they are growing in size. The mental size, the physical size, the emotional size, the psychosocial, the moral, they are growing. So what are you doing, Faith? Are you growing your capacity? The Lord has given us a great blessing in form of 3 children. And our baby is 7 years old, who is very easy to just threaten, use a cane and explain and in a box or gets in there. But I am also raising a preteen who turned 12. Now, I cannot raise my 7-year-old the same way I raised my 12-year-old boy. And so, how am I growing my capacity as a parent? Now, what is capacity? As I said, 500 ml, ability to hold. Are you growing your ability to hold? And I want to just give probably just 3 areas. And when we get into the parenting journey part 2, we can explore when we come to the second rule of a parent. But allow me to say this, that one of the area that a parent cannot be naive, cannot be ignorant, it is a kind of knowledge you are acquiring. At least even if you don't know how to say A to Z, you need to familiarize yourself if your baby is going to preschool. Or at least raise someone that understands A to Z to be able to help you interpret the level at which your child is. So pick knowledge, intellectually pick knowledge, emotionally pick knowledge. I am not ignorant that my 12-year-old, a lot of things are going through his body, including hormonal changes. It would be naive for me to forget that I was once 12 years old. So my emotional capacity must grow. That I will not take everything with a cane and think, my child is intimidating me. That probably they are leaking information they want us to discuss, even in form of a very interesting question, or even in terms of content. One parent asked me, my 12-year-old is exposed to pornography. What do I do? I say that's a leakage of how much your child knows. And so start engaging with them. Start engaging with them. It is too late to close that channel because they saw. And so begin a conversation of helping them unlearn some of the things that they learned in the pornographic materials. And so knowledge, pick knowledge, even in terms of your social skill. It is, I am amazed when someone says, I am my daughter's best friend. that is so, but I'm first a parent, and my daughter is going to have many other friends. And so it is important that I learn to investigate the social asset they are building. I start growing my knowledge on their social asset, and also the kind of social asset I would want them to have. Now, I dare say this, social asset is collected, Roy. It is collected. How do I know, Roy? Because we have been engaged in platforms where we have been able to build the capacity of families together. And so in my line of passion, I met Roy. So social assets are collected. Where are you exposing your children so that they collect what they collect? Because depending with where you expose your children to, that is what they will collect. And so I ask myself, knowledge, social knowledge, where do I take my children? Do I take them for madrasa? Do I take them for Sunday school? Do I take them for family gatherings so that they have a sense of social belonging? Do I participate in the child activity so that I get to know who is this that my child has collected in school? Just your social knowledge must increase. Of course, knowledge is just information. It's just information. Who's your best friend? My daughter is going to tell me, oh, my best friend is Mercy. Who is your best friend? My son is going to tell me, oh, my best friend is Jaden. But beyond that, it is my responsibility now to take it back, now to take it to the next level. Now that's knowledge. I know that my son's best friend is Jaden, but so what? I need now to get the social skill to engage with Jaden's parents, to just want to know how is the socialization of this child. Not because I want to tell them or stop engaging with them, but if there's a place I know that they can help my child, I will be able to point out if I can help that child, because that is already a friend, that's already a social asset that has been brought, then I can. If it is a child that needs help, then I can separate that child from my child and help them get help. If they are probably stuck in drugs, then I can be able to engage with the parents so that they go to the rehab and they get help and they also get counseling. And so now my skill again, that you see, the first one was knowledge, the information, but take it a notch higher. Build your skill, your social skills to be able to engage with this knowledge. Emotional skill to be able to engage with this knowledge. And then, of course, when that happens, if my knowledge is right, my skill is right, what opportunities are there for me? What platforms? The school is an opportunity for me, the church or the mosque is an opportunity for me. So how do I engage with this platform? And then from there, we go ahead, Roy, and tell ourselves, the parent must be deliberate in the shape they want to pick. Now, if you are a lady and listening to me, you know that we have corsets that are shapers, that you wear so that you get the right shape. In addition to the corset, can you get your model as a parent right? Can you be able to get your real shape, the correct shape in terms of belief system, attitude, as well as capacity? And so, Roy, that is a parenting journey. And that's the first part, the parent as a molder. When we get an opportunity next, we're going to ask ourselves, what about the parent as a co-creator? Thank you, Roy. Back to you so that we can get to interact. Can you get your model as a parent right?
Wow. Thank you very much, Faith, for that very powerful part one of the conversation, the parent in the parenting journey. And the parent must be deliberate in making and getting the shape that they need to make sure that they bring forth a child that will be ready for that world that we call the future world. What wonderful pieces of advice that you have shared there. There is one question that came to the inbox. I had told people to put questions in the comment section or to use the number that I pinned in the comments to send messages if they didn't want the questions to go in the comment section. So there's a question here that is relating to the capacity of a parent, the third thing that you shared. And this parent is saying that I think they have a teenager. So they're saying the teenager is these days constantly making them angry. And the parent is saying, I think my capacity to contain that anger is small. How do I build this capacity? Because most of the things the teen is doing seem to be annoying the parent. The parent has not mentioned the things, but they say most of the things the teen is doing seem to be annoying the parent. How does this parent begin to build the capacity to handle the anger that they are feeling because of their teenager?
Interesting, Roy. And to the parent that has asked that question, I know it is not just a personal question. I know you have asked on behalf of many parents that are out there that probably would want to hear the response to this question. So thank you for just being confident in asking this question. Now, Roy, we have one expert called James Dobson, an expert in family matters. And he has written many books, he's done many videos. The one that I love is titled, Emotions, Can You Trust Them? You know, emotions, can you trust them? Now, the parent that has asked this question, guess what? Anger is an emotion. It is an emotion. As a parent, you are expected to be a responsible parent. And sometimes when we say a responsible parent, someone says, oh, that's harsh. But let's see, what's the definition of the word responsible? It is responsibility, your ability to respond. And so the parent that is constantly getting angry, anger is an emotion. So here we are talking about managing the emotions, managing your emotions first. So that then you ask yourself, what is the bigger picture of what is making me so angry? Let me give a hypothetical example. The child is violating curfew. They're supposed to come back at 6, they show up at 7:30 going to 8. I have asked them to stop hanging out some friends that I think are not, are up to no good, but they're still hanging around them. My question is, what is the bigger picture of that violation? So that in addition to just managing curfew, probably ask yourself, why in the first place did you even give this instruction that the child is violating? Why did you set this expectation for the child? Was it only for you? Was it, and forgive me for being a bit blunt this evening, was it a selfish expectation? Was it a selfish expectation? Or was it an expectation to help this child? You see, if you don't keep curfew hours, you make yourself vulnerable to very many social ills out there. You make yourself a suspect to many things that are happening out there. Could this be an opportunity, the violation, could it be an opportunity for a lifetime life skill of what this would look like in the future? If you keep on violating boundaries. For example, I tell you, please stop hanging out with girls, stop touchy fili with girls, stop touchy fili with boys. What does this mean? Is it time to probably put this in context of the bigger picture so that your child understands the implication not only for now, but also for life? And so if you are not able to handle it now because you are steaming hot, my brother, my sister, it is no harm discussing it tomorrow unless London is burning. By tomorrow, the urgency and the anger that you had this evening may not be in the same magnitude tomorrow. Are you just wanting to respond so that you feel nice, or are you responding for the sake of your child? A friend of mine one day told me how they killed a neighbor's rabbit. And the neighbor threw tantrums. And the father called them and said, listen, who knows that the careless throwing up of things tomorrow will not kill a rabbit, but could kill a child. This conversation will not be with me, but will be with the police and DCI. And so when I ask you not to be careless in the way you throw things, it is not just because of the rabbit, but because of what that could happen. Then from there, the father went ahead and said, and this story is so big, we can't even discuss now. I want you to go take a shower and sleep, think about it. Let's have the conversation tomorrow. Tomorrow, the young man waited, the father didn't engage. The fourth time, the son came and said, Daddy, this one we must engage. And so by the time they were engaging, the boy was ready to learn and the parent was ready to teach. And so, parent out there, unless London is burning, take time. If London is burning, contain the situation, and then from there, wait until your anger has come down. Don't flare up on issues. Don't use all your armory so that tomorrow you have nothing in your armory to be able to handle big time issues. Thank you, Roy.
Wow, thank you very much. Unless London is burning, that one is profound. Now, this one is not a direct question from one of the viewers. It is something that came to my attention in the course of the week. And I happened to overhear this conversation. And I want us to assume the position of the parent. This was a complaint from the child. The child is a senior teenager, I think just cleared high school. And the boy says that the parents do not want him to bring his numerous girlfriends home. It's not even one, it is numerous, right? And the parent has refused that the boy does that. And so the guy was complaining very bitterly. So as I was listening to the story, I was quickly remembering the conversation that we are having tonight. And I was beginning to try and wear the shoes of that parent, whether it's the father or the mother that is refusing that such should not happen at home. I don't know what should be going on in the mind of that parent. And should such a parent feel like they are failures, they have failed in terms of their responsibilities? Could it also be a reflection of failure indeed? Or what would be your sentiments to this?
Interesting, Roy. Again, let me go back to what informs the shape of a parent. Yeah? Let me go back to what informs the shape of a parent. The second one was attitudes. Is it an attitude issue from the parent, or is it a real issue of concern? Because when this boy brings numerous girlfriends home, do they watch a Christian movie, play cards together, and then everyone goes home? So is it an attitude issue, or is there a real issue that needs to be sorted? Roy, let me tell you, and we'll be talking about that the next time when we talk about parent as a co-creator. The things that you did as a parent, as you're growing up, because you were once a child, you were once in the parenting journey as a child, this time you're in the parenting journey as a parent. Those things that you did, and you're so ashamed or guilty of, but you never unlearned. You never forgave yourself. You never picked up some of the lessons and moved forward as a parent. They will constantly inform your attitudes. If you're a young girl and you went intimate with a boy at the age of 15, by the time your girl gets to 15, every indicator is that your girl is getting intimate with the boy. If you never corrected that, if you never unlearned that, if you're a boy, if you're a father, and you are caught in wrong corners with girls, intimate with them, when you see your daughter or your son with a girl in corners, your mind reminds you, and sometimes I like saying this, Roy, it plays tricks on you and shows you for real. These guys are doing exactly what we did as we were growing up. My friend, your child is not you. You are not your child. These are two different people. Go to the level of your child, get to know exactly what they do with the numerous girls, isolate issues, and then from there, help them separate, because they may not bring the numerous girls home, but they could go to numerous girls in their friend's place. So before you just say, I don't want to see boys here, I don't want to see girls here, go back, mama, go back, daddy. Ask yourself, what are the real issues here? Separate them, begin with your top priority. If all of them you feel are urgent, sit down with the counselor and ask whether they're as urgent as you are feeling. Because again, emotions, can you trust them? Tomorrow you realize it was nothing bad. They were actually doing PlayStation. There was nothing bad. You know, Roy, this one reminds me of one time where we live. I don't know how comes, but almost every home has boys. Girls are very rare where we live. And one day, my daughter told me, Aki Mami, imagine there's no girl around except so and so. So I will have to, you know, I find myself playing with boys and I'm wondering, because she's 11, could people misinterpret me? And we started that conversation. And so my question is, as a parent, what has informed your attitudes? Are they real? Are they a scare? Do you need to walk the journey as a parent with another parent, probably a counselor, a psychologist, for you to unwind? Because it may not be worth all that energy. Probably it may even be detrimental to your son, to your daughter. The high time you allowed yourself to grow capacity. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you very much, Faith. That is a detailed response, and how I wish that parent or such parents would be with us tonight, or will at some point interact with this conversation, so that then they can have a better way, a better view towards how to approach the same. Now, the last question, or the last comment I want to draw from you is from a comment that came from, there's a conversation I did. I think it was an article I wrote, and I was talking about parents who stock alcohol in their houses. You know, the beauty of the family show is that we are going to talk about these things, those that we would love to sweep under the carpet, and those that we wouldn't wish to be talked about. We will talk about them here. So I mentioned that if a parent, and this was coming from some mentorship session that I had done with preteens on alcohol and drug abuse. And in the course of my conversation with them, something came to my mind. I said, let me just find out how many of them have been exposed to these drugs. And so I did a quick survey, and I realized majority of them had been exposed to very many of these drugs. Again, I asked, so how did you first encounter these drugs? And I realized that majority of them, and this was a mentorship in church, majority of them had been introduced to these drugs by their parents. Either because the parents stocks some of these things in their houses, or because they went out with their parents and the parents do not even realize that they have gone to places where they shouldn't be with their children. And so that gave them the exposure. But then out of this, there was a big crowd who said that their parents stock alcohol in their houses. And out of those that said their parents stock alcohol in their houses, all of them had actually tested the alcohol. And that is not strange to me, all right? Because I remember even as I grew up, at some point, my father used to have alcohol in the house. And as you're growing up, those temptations of a young person, you would want to see what it feels like and then replace with some water so that the level remains where it was. So as I was writing this, I mentioned that parents need to be very careful so that as we bring up our children, even if we are indulging in these things, then we want to bring them up in a neutral way, so that even if they chose to go that route in future, let it be their own decision, not because you played a part in influencing them. So most of the comments that came were in support of that view. But then there was one that caught my attention. And this parent said that they believe exposing the children to these things in the home is good, because when they grow up, they will not be shocked by the outside world when they're introduced to them for the first time out there. I don't know what your view would be.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting, Roy, because I am thinking about exposing my children to all the things that are possible there. Roy, do you imagine how many things we would expose them to? We would give them pornographic materials so that they watch both soft pornography and hard pornography. Then from there, we would take them to street clubs. we'd introduce them to occult. Are you get what I'm saying? We would introduce them to all manner of philosophies so that they can know. My question is, and Roy, allow me to use this very basic example as I underline deliberate and intentional parent. You know, if you went to boarding school early like me, at class 5, I was in boarding school. We used to carry soaps, and those were very, very formative years for me. And the soap that my mother used to buy for me was the Imperial. I don't use it anymore for change of taste and preference, not for any reason. But I used to use Imperial, the Cassons, Imperial. Today, if I visit you, Roy, if I visit a home and they use Cassons, I don't smell or I don't feel the smell of Cassons. I have many memories. I remember us washing clothes with a bathing soap. I remember many things. You see, your memory, your brain has the ability to retain information, and it has the ability to remind you. So to say, like Facebook will remind you 1 year ago. Your brain will constantly flash. If you give it an indicator, it will flash back many things. And so my question is, if you are a deliberate and intentional parent, is this the path you want for your child? And Roy, I dare ask, if you walk this path with your child, how does the end look like? Because if you understand how the end look like, then you will understand that a parent is a guardrail. A guardrail, if you're traveling to Nakuru or you're traveling to Meru, and you're following a major road, you realize that barriers are not everywhere. Do you realize that? They're at a place where there's a bend, there's a place where there's a slope, there's somewhere where there's a river, or where there's, or where probably it's a black spot. And so the parent is a rail guard. You're not everywhere, but where you must be deliberate. I'm not saying that we bring up greenhouse children. Roy, I'm not saying that. Children that are so naive. I'm not saying that you bring up greenhouse children, but when they get a level of exposure, for example, you go for an innocent friend invites you for dinner, and then there's wine, then probably pick that as a lesson when you go home. You see they served wine and we chose not to take, not because it's not palatable, not because it is sweet, but because of the down spiral effect, which we foresee in the next 4 years. From a casual drinker to someone already in the rehab. And so, Roy, I want to dare that parent. Mark where you want your rail guard to be. I'm not saying, I am not disagreeing with you so that we bring up greenhouse children, but where must we have the rail guard? If you know here, there's a possibility of a down spiral movement. Roy, do it like the way they have done it in Sachangwan. That is not a barrier, it's a wall, all right? Because it's very serious. Where you don't need very serious, just go eliminating it. Where there's no barrier, even putting a barrier. And so ask yourself, where do I need to erect a barrier for my children? Because as a parent, as an intentional and deliberate parent, I am a real guard. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you very much, Faith, for that very detailed bit. And I want to agree with you entirely on that one. And it's a conversation we must continue having, because those are the times that we are living in. If there is a word you've mentioned, a word that has driven me, a word that, if I'm asked to mention a word that was the most liberating word of all the words I've learned in this life, is the word deliberate. That is the word that from the first time I met it, and I saw how powerful it is, and that word makes the whole difference in everything that we do in life. Now, Faith, I want to give you an opportunity to tell my viewer, where can they get you if they want to access you? Tell them about the Jewel show that you mentioned, so that they can also connect and probably be able to follow up on the things that you're doing.
Thank you very much, Roy. Of course, my first contact is Roy, because we are in this industry together. We are doing this together. But again, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Faith Kabiro. You'll be able to see how, again, we are engaging in Jewel's show. And of course, we'll be also bringing Roy in Jewel's show because I know he's very passionate about financial management. And so you can get me on YouTube. You can get me on Facebook, Faith Kabiro. You can follow so that then we can continue with this conversation. So thank you. Thank you very much, Roy.
Thank you very much. And thank you, our viewers, for taking time to be with us tonight. We want to believe that you have gotten something that will make your family better than it was before you joined us tonight. The Family Show is a show that is here to stay, is a show that is here to inspire you, is a show that is here to equip you, and it's a show that is here eventually to transform you. Now, if you're visiting us for the first time, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss out every time we are holding this show or every time we have a video coming up. There are very many videos already on the channel, more than 100 of them that you can feed on, that you can interact with. Feel free to interact with me on any of my inboxes so that we can take these conversations to the next level. Faith, definitely myself, and all my viewers, I think we are looking forward to part 2 of this conversation, the parent in the parenting journey. I don't know why it looks like it will have a part 3. I don't know, but it has been a very interesting journey, and we have really learned a lot, myself, and I want to believe that my viewers have actually learned quite a lot in terms of the parent taking up the shape that they need to take up. And those 3 very powerful things: the belief system, the attitudes of the parent, and the capacity of the parent. That should go a long way. And as we sum it up, deliberate and intentional parenting. Thank you very much, everyone who's joined us and those that will be joining us in the days to come. We look forward to hosting you again next week, same place, same time. Thank you and have a good night.